Hello YouTubers, here's what I'm doing today. I wanted to hook up the winch to my bike, and the only thing I had that operated the winch was this old handle, which I did fix up and it was okay. But what I found was during the winter when I was doing some plowing, I had it hung there like that. And because it was near the throttle, I couldn't really operate it, with my operate that and the throttle at the same time. And it wasn't long enough to reach over here. And even still, it was kind of hard to work at it. So with that, I decided at that point I was going to change it out. And so what I did was I picked up one of these switches and mounted it on my handlebars. And this stuff is pretty straightforward, I just put it down with the brake controller there for the two bolts that hold on the brake controller. And I got it here where my left hand is, so I can sort of operate it a lot easier when next winter comes. Or for whatever other reason I might want it, So that'll work out. The only thing is this works with a reversing solenoid, which you got to buy separately. So whereas this is a heavy enough switch, if you open it up inside, there's huge contacts in there that can handle the amperage that's going through through the wires. But without this, you need to have a solenoid, because these wires on these are so small. They're only meant to activate a solenoid switch, not to actually handle the straight through power. So that's how they operate. So I just traced this down through here, and I hooked it all up already. But the other thing too was, before I bought this reversing solenoid switch, I picked up, you might recognize this is the little cheap remotes that come from eBay. You can buy them on eBay, to work this as well. And I said I want to hook that up as well, because sometimes it's nice when if your neutral pull-out doesn't work, or if you want to be away from the bike so you're not in line with the cable in case it snaps, or for whatever reason, you want to be able to operate this remotely while you're out on the trail, for whatever reason. I decided to hook up one of those as well. So, and that's the reversing solenoid switch that I bought. You can see how it's heavy duty. It's made, look at the lugs on that. It's made to handle those kind of amperages, that the winch has to work on, right? So what I'll do is I'll break this down now and show you exactly how I hook this up. And see if I can, maybe someone else wants to get, these might be a few ideas there to help you to maybe hook up your own. Okay, so first what I'm going to do is I'm going to look at my battery back here, and my red and my black, positive and negative, of course, I'm going with that. Come up through to the front, and it comes up out of near the chassis rail there in the frame, and then it comes over here. And you could hook them directly up to your winch, but then she'd be just constantly going the whole time. So you don't want that. So in between here and where the wires would continue to the winch is where you want to hook up your switch. Okay. Now, if you only hook up a straight switch, of course, like if you hook the red to the red here and then the black to the black there, right, the motor would turn in one direction. So being a DC motor. Now if you were to take these and then reverse them, hook the black up to the red and then hook the red up to the black, the motor would spin in the other direction. And so depending on which way your cable is coiled, because when you get to the very end, if the motor keeps going, she'll just coil back the other way, and then it'll just reverse itself. So depending on how it's wired up and stuff, the motor will spin in one direction. And once you figure out which direction it's spinning in, then you can base all your other things off that. Like, does in mean in and out means out? I mean, that's the easiest way to put it. So the next thing I had to do was hook up the wires. So now this is my switch up here. I got it traced down through there, and I got it coming over through here. And it had 3 wires on it, okay, because this is to activate the solenoid. So in order to activate the solenoid, what happens is you hook the red up to power. Positive only is all you need. Hooked up to positive, the power will go through, and then when you activate the switch, depending on if you push, in or out, then the power continues on through one or the other of these two. Okay? So if you push the out button, it'll activate the green in this particular case, because that's what out is lined up with, is up with the green, and in is lined up with the black wire. Okay? It's marked in and out on the switch, so if it was reversed, you'd just do the opposite. Okay? So knowing that, it's just a matter of knowing how to hook it up to the solenoid. Alright? So on the solenoid, okay, right here, and just forget about the remote for a second, because that'll be secondary. Take it one step at a time. If you look close enough, and I don't know if this camera can pick it up, it's supposed to have high definition, but this one says battery negative, this one says battery positive, okay? And then this one here says forward, and this one here says reverse, okay? Again, it's just as well to go with what they got here. It makes things a lot easier if you know which ones are which. Like I happen to know that when this is hooked up with the red one, hooked to positive, that's forward. So what's going to happen is when I go to hook this up to the solenoid, it's just easy for me to hook it up to the one that says forward, and that way I'm keeping it all straight. So that's the easiest thing to do. But when it comes to hooking this up then, well, if this one says forward, then this one here is what's going to activate when I put the power through. This is like a little electromagnet. This is what's going to activate this terminal. So if that one says forward, then what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the green one from this wire and hook it to that terminal. In the meantime, the power which feeds those, I got hooked up directly to this here. Now, I got it hooked up in a different way, which I'll explain in a minute, but basically this will feed off the power that's coming from the battery. And of course I just told you wrong, it's going to be up here where the positive is. So this will be hooked into the positive, and then when you activate your switch, the power will come from the positive, go up through the wire, through the switch, back down through here, hook here, which is going to activate this solenoid, which is going to let the power continue from here over to this one, continue on out through here, through your motor, back through your ground, and on back to your battery, which will let the motor go in one direction. When you hook up the black wire to this side, it'll be the opposite. The feed will go through there, up through the wire, activate this one here, let the power go through. Basically your motor will spin the other direction, okay, correspondingly. So that's how that's going to work. So you keep that straight and hook that up, you're fine. The reason I got all the extra connections on here is because I wanted to also hook up this remote as well. So in order to hook up the remote, here's what I figured out. The blue is an antenna. Sometimes these don't come with instructions. The black is ground, of course, so that'll go on the ground one here. The red is your positive power for the exact same thing. That'll hook up here to your positive terminal, and I'll show you how I hook that up there now in a second, which you'll understand why the connections are here like this. And then one of these is in and one is out. So that works with your remote. Almost the same thing as your other switch, except for it's done wirelessly. So what I had to do was I had to be able to connect this one. If I want to use this switch instead of the one on the handlebar, then what I had to do was I hooked this one in through with the extra connector there. So what I'm going to be doing is, I'm going to try to do this for my chin. I'll hook this in here. So that's the remote hooked up into that. And then when it comes time, I'll hook this onto the terminal. And that way then my remote will work as well. So that's how that's going to operate. Sorry. Now, so if you take it a step at a time, hooking up your wires, then all is fine. Now, the only thing was, Another problem I had to solve, let's get these wires out of the way, make it less confusing, was how I was going to put this on the bike. So I didn't really want to be hooking this up, you know, just screwing it on there on the side or here somewhere here like this. It's all exposed to the weather, to the elements, or hit back here. There's no room underneath to put it. I could have put it back inside of my the box back here, but then again you had to run big wires all the way through, all the way to the front. There was all kinds of issues. So what I did was I had one of these snowmobile boxes. Now this is sort of a snowmobile. You see these down in the underneath the hoods in the older Skidoos, and it's a nice size little box. You know, it's pretty much weatherproof, with a little door that you can open and close. So, and what I found was that, you know, you look at the front of my bike here, it actually was nice. It could fit right there like that. I would just have to mount it on there and put everything in there. So I had two of those boxes actually, and so what I did was I cut a hole in the side and I put this wire holder. Now all my wires will feed in through here. It's a nice big hole, and it'll sit inside the box here. So when it comes time I mounted this under, I can work on the wires out here like this, work away on the wires, and then when it comes time, this will fit quite snugly inside here. So I just gotta work on the, oops, destroy everything. It will fit in here. This should raise this up a little bit. It all goes in there. All my wires can be tucked in side, and I close it up. Now, one of the other things I did add on, which is why I was telling you, I'll show you about the other connections, was I don't have like a battery shut-off switch for my winch. So it means that the winch going through all this here is powered the whole time. There's no shut-off switch. Even when the bike is turned off itself with the key out, you could still operate the winch. And that could be an issue, especially if you accidentally hit your remote control and you don't know it. She could tear up the bike, you know. Let's say if she went into in mode, she'd haul that right up and crush that little pipe there or something, or burn out the motor. Anything at all like that happened. Some kids could sit on her, you know. I suppose they could still. But what I did was, for the little red wire that operates both the handle switch and the remote, right here, I hooked in this little toggle switch. So when I don't need to use the winch, this will be in the off position, and when I do need to use it, I'll turn it on, and that'll feed power to both the remote and the handle switch. So what I'm going to do now is wire this all back together again and mount it back onto the bike, and you can see the results. Everything's hooked up, ready to go. So everything's inside there. As you can see, toggle switch, the remote, everything's all wired up. Ready? Yeah, I still don't have a tripod. I'm just working out. Kind of looks nice on the bike, you know, with the almost like it matches. So nice and neat. Now, does it work? Well, let's find out. So we'll turn our switch is off, of course. Nothing works. We turn our switch on. Do out. Do in. It's all working. And try with our. Now these Chinese remotes. The only thing about what you want to watch with these is if you watch this. Oops, I got to turn down. If you watch this, there's a slight delay from when you let go of the button till it stops moving. So especially when you're pulling this thing in, you got to be careful you don't bind up your hook into your fear lead and bend it or break it or get it stuck. So you can see there's about a 2-second delay, maybe a second delay. So sort of want to just watch it. That's all, so you don't break your you don't break it up, you know. So yeah, it's I'm happy with it. And bonus is I got lots of room in here. I can even put the remote in there and hide it. That's how it came out. Anyway.